In this video, we're going to cover how to choose the best apps, but I'm going to throw in a twist. I barely use apps. Now that may really surprise you because a lot of people talk about using, the latest app that everyone's talking about, but I really don't use them, and I've done several hundreds of thousands of dollars because I'm a strong believer in apps can be very useful, but you can get to $1 million without using apps, and a lot of the time apps actually ruin your performance more than better them. So don't always listen to the hype of some app that may seem cool or someone's using it and they're doing $300 a month. I'm telling you as someone who's done up to $45,000 a month with dropshipping, and I have not barely used any apps at all. So the ones I do use on my dropshipping stores, one is Aberlo, obviously, but you can also use Shopify or the other ones. The second is MailChimp for email advertising, but again, you can use a variety of other email marketing platforms. And then the third is an analytics app, just to get a deeper dive into how customers are behaving on my store. And that is literally it. So if you do want more apps, I'm not saying don't use them because there are some very good ones, but I'm not going to sort of pick out ones where they're really good because it really depends on what products you're selling and what store you're running and where your customers are based and stuff like that. So what I'll do instead is show you how to find the best apps, but I'm also saying that you really don't need apps to do several hundred thousand or even $1 million on Shopify. So my personal recommendation would be to focus on everything else covered in this course and then marketing as well. And then after you've got some customers, then you can start spending time looking through apps and seeing if there's any tweaks you can make. But it is not an essential part of being hugely successful with dropshipping. But there is some things I want to talk about. So what I'll do is, this is the main Shopify app store. If you're using another platform, I'm sure they've got their own version of this. And this just has all the variety of different apps. So what I've done is I've opened tabs for each of the main categories which are relevant to dropshipping, and then I'll just have a quick summary of each of them and what I think on them. But obviously, if you are interested in them, then feel free to have a look through. So the first thing you want to do is when you get to one of the categories, such as marketing, you want to price them by either free or paid. So a lot of people just prefer the free ones because then they can just trial them and see what they're like. Although most paid ones also do offer a free trial. So you can always try them and see if they work. And if they don't, just uninstall them before your time's up. But the main thing is to either look at the popularity, or actually, no, don't look at what's newest because that's quite irrelevant. Look at the popularity and see what's actually being used a lot, and then obviously focus on the ratings. It's very similar to how you pick products on AliExpress actually. So find ones with a lot of volume because that's social proof of people are actually enjoying this, and then also make sure that the ratings are high as well. So this is for marketing, and the biggest thing I'll say about this and sales, which is the next tab, for example, there's a big debate on whether loads of these sleazy pop-ups are actually effective, and my view is that they're really, really, really not. So this is spin a sale, and when someone goes to leave your website, it just brings up this roulette table that you spin, and you can win a specific discount or whatever. And then so that's one, and then the other one, which I think is even worse, is I can't find it right here right now. But what it does is, you've probably seen it before potentially. It's when a customer's on a website, it will every few seconds have a little pop-up come up in the corner of this customer just bought, and then it will just list the product, and those aren't real. So it'll come up with customers buying X product, but they're not even real. And the reason I don't like them is these two apps, which are very, very popular in dropshipping, is they get in the way of what you actually want a customer to do. So especially the one that pops up. So especially on your phone. So a lot of sales now, in fact, I think predominantly social sales particularly come through mobile phone rather than desktop. And when you've got a pop-up that's taking up, a fifth of your screen while you're trying to look at products or read descriptions, it's really, really, really annoying, and you can't get to where you want to go. So people leave the website instead of actually, you know, focusing on the pop-up. And then the other reason is it slows down your phone. So if you're not connected to Wi-Fi, or you've got an older phone, having these pop-ups running in the background slows down the website, so customers again have a worse customer experience, because stores nowadays, that customers have such high expectations, they need to be running very, very quickly. Like within seconds, pages and things should change immediately. So by having all of these additional scripts and code to run in the background, you're slowing down your website, and it's just a terrible customer experience. It's making everything slower, and it's getting in the way. So that's why I don't like them. And I also don't like them because they're trying to fool people. So the other one, which is probably the most used one, I'll see if it's here. I think it's called SHOPIFY. And what that does is when, well, that's good. It's actually starting to not be at the top, because it's hopefully people are realizing how stupid it is. So SHOPIFY is kind of like on eBay, where when a customer visits, it'll say, hurry up, buy this within 10 minutes before the sale's over. But the difference is, on eBay, it's actually true. Like an auction will close at the time it says, where on SHOPIFY, it's just constantly showing that countdown. So if a customer goes on your website and then leaves and then comes back the next day and sees that it's still only 10 minutes, like, they're never going to trust you. And that's what a lot of people do. And when they buy something, they don't just buy on the first visit. They'll come back over a few days, and if they just keep seeing the same garbage like that on there, like, they're not going to buy from you, because they'll know that you're scamming them. So if you want to run a successful dropshipping business, or any business, like, keep it ethical and focus on the customer rather than trying to actually trick them into just buying something from you. Like, it doesn't work in the long run. So if you're going to use marketing and sales apps, use ones that are renowned for actually being useful. So email marketing, for example, is a great one. Or if you want to put like a bar at the top of your website that says free shipping on all orders, like, stuff like that is absolutely fine, because it doesn't get in the way. It's not trying to trick people or anything like that. But the other one I will show you is Kit. So Kit does your adverts for you, and I'm a strong believer that you shouldn't be doing this either. So right now, AI or whatever isn't good enough to be a human at crafting advertising. Like, obviously the system does all the optimization and stuff in the background, but in terms of actually setting up an ad and all of that stuff, I still think humans do a better job. So if you want to do Facebook or Instagram advertising, either watch YouTube videos about it or take a course on how to do it, because I guarantee you none of the biggest, most successful e-commerce websites in the world are using Kit. They'll have their own marketing and advertising teams, or they'll have at least even just one person doing it themselves, because that's how you also learn better and get better results. Like, I've tried Kit and it just wasn't for me. Like, I got much better results on my own. So if you really don't want to do it, then obviously it's fine. Like, it's got a lot of 5-star reviews, but my recommendation would be to actually use Facebook and Instagram advertising yourself, and actually learn how to do this, because then you actually become a better entrepreneur as well. So that's what I wanted to cover in marketing. Like, definitely do check them out if you do. Like, there's loads of different email marketing apps that are perfectly good. You can just pick whichever one you like. Use the free trials that most of them offer to sort of test different things. So email marketing, before I settled on MailChimp, I tried a few different ones, and I just liked how flexible the creation process was with MailChimp, but other people prefer Privy and some other ones as well. So I don't want to make recommendations, because people like different things, so it's actually quite a cheap way to try and sell your skills or knowledge when it's actually very different for each person. So the main recommendation I will give you is to filter by popularity, and then focus on ones with a lot of reviews and a lot of good reviews as well. So that's marketing and sales. Social, like, these things are good. You can include like your Instagram embedded feed on your website and things like that. But again, I will highlight the fact that when you do add all of these plugins, it does slow down the website. So I would focus more on speed of your website than these nice to have features that aren't essential for sales. Like, embedding your Instagram feed or something isn't essential for you making a sale, whereas the speed of your website and having things clear and uncluttered, like that is essential to making sales. So you can look through these, but again, be careful that they're not going to slow down your website. And then e-commerce. So for dropshipping, there's loads of different tracking websites that you can, tracking apps that you can use, but Shopify's inbuilt is perfectly fine in my opinion. Like, again, this is overly engineering things and making things a bit more complicated in terms of integrating it with your email and all of that other stuff. So I just use Shopify's, or whatever your platform is, native emailing system to do all the updates. So when you get an order that's shipped on AliExpress, the supplier will put the tracking number along with it, and then when it's synced to Shopify through a Burlo or Dropify or whatever you use, then Shopify or whatever you use will just send that email to your customer with the details in it. So these aren't really essential because Shopify does it for you, but like they're perfectly fine if you want to use them. Just focus more on the important things rather than things like this, which is just a nice to have, but the functionality is already covered within your e-commerce platform. And then accounting, obviously, if you want to do accounting, it's good to have these. I've used QuickBooks, not in my dropshipping businesses, but in other businesses. They're very good for sort of capturing all of your expenses and revenue, etc. But with a dropshipping business, it's actually quite good because the costs are all concentrated in AliExpress if you use AliExpress. So it's not like you're starting a products business and you've got loads of different manufacturers and different parts of the supply chain where you're charged for different things. Like, it's all in AliExpress, all of your costs are there, and then you can get the AliExpress Pocket, which sort of minimizes the transactions, and then there's maybe an advertising on Facebook or your Shopify monthly fee. So it's all quite minimal, so you might not even need an accounting app at all. Like, I don't use it for my dropshipping businesses. I just collect the accounts on my American Express card and then my actual business current account, and then that's enough for my accountant to do my accounts for me. So I wouldn't pay for this unless you're getting into the really big numbers, and if you've got a more complex operation, then sort of just AliExpress and then Facebook advertising and then Shopify, etc. Because then it's just not really necessary. And I think Shopify is good as well, is that whenever you do get apps, it will just include it in your monthly bill, so it won't be just billed separately as a separate transaction. It will all just be bundled together, which also reduces the amount of transactions you have. So that's accounting. And the other thing to look at is e-commerce tools. So these are quite good. There's a lot of good ones here. So for example, when you're selling globally, you can do the best currency converter, which will convert the currency into whatever local currency the customer's from. So the only reason I don't use this is because so I've got the British pound, and that is most other countries, their equivalent in their currency is higher than the British pound. So one British pound is like 1.7 or 8 whatever dollars, and then in rupees or whatever it's at 80, and Australian dollars it's more as well. So whenever customers visit my website, since it's in pounds, the value looks lower. Like, it looks like the prices are lower when in fact it is probably what they expected in other places. But that's why I keep it in pounds, because the number is lower. So they won't bother doing the calculation of the conversion, so they'll just think, oh, that's a really good price, and they buy it. But if you do want to tailor it, then best currency converter is good. Like, I know people that do use this, and it's just really effective, and it can increase conversions, because a lot of the time people do prefer buying in their own currency. So look through these, they're quite good. And yeah, if you're in the EU, you can get like a cookie bar and things like that, but unless you're a big company, no one's gonna I don't think they'll look at your website and be like, you need to have a cookie bar there. So yeah, these are all nice to haves, I think. There's no apps that I can think of in dropshipping, apart from your actual dropshipping app like a Burlo or Dropify, that are actually essential for success, and maybe email marketing actually, because that's really good. But apart from that, the rest are nice to have. So I would focus on building your 6-figure store or 7-figure store based on the other strategies. And then apps is something that you can do once you're established and sort of really getting going. And then finally, business intelligence. So this is an app that I do have. Where is it? Semantics 3. So there's no particular reason why I chose this one over the 3 in front of it. I think Semantics at the time was the top rated one, and now it's obviously, there's been some ones that are increasingly higher, although this one, Semantics, does have a higher amount of reviews than these other top 2, so I'm not sure why they're ahead of Semantics. But anyway, this is really good for understanding what is happening on your website. So Shopify or whatever platform you use, like, their analytics are fine, but Semantics or equivalent is really good because you can also export the data as like an Excel or numbers file and then look at it that way. But for example, some of the things I look at are what products are getting the most views but not the highest sales, because then that suggests to me that these products have the most interest over other products, but they're not selling as much as other products that have less interest. So that means there's something wrong with that page. And then what I figured out was, in one of the pages that had, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd highest viewed one, but like the 6th or 7th highest bought one. So I looked at it and I realized that one of the images I had of the product wasn't very good. Like, it actually made it look uglier than it was. So I deleted that photo and immediately it climbed up and then was either 3 or actually the match 2. And then so it's insights like that where you can look at what's got the most attention versus what's got the most sales, and then that is the biggest indicator for me of using these apps, of where you should focus on making improvements. Because if someone's clicking on a product, it means they are interested, and then something on that page is stopping them from buying. So that's the main way I'd use the app, but it's also great to just keep an eye on your overall performance on a weekly, daily, monthly, or even annual basis. So definitely try out Semantics or the equivalent of it, and then spend some time looking at the data and just think of ways where, this isn't adding up, or how can this be improved, and things like that. And then if you see like ones that are performing really well, you can compare those pages to ones that aren't performing very well and see what similarities and differences there are, and how you can bring up the ones that aren't selling as much to be higher. So there's a variety of different ways you can use analytics, but get one of these apps and then you'll have the additional brain power of sort of intelligence and reporting, and that will make your decisions much better, much faster, and that will translate into higher sales.